Oh, a look at South Africa's political landscape. A new offering by Qaanitah Hunter and Adriaan Basson, who will rule South Africa, shines a spotlight on the ANC's performance in office since 1994. 30 years into our democracy, South Africa heads to the polls next year. We're looking at some of the outcomes for the 2024 general elections and beyond. All this will be explored. So Qaanitah Hunter, editor and author, joins us now to discuss a little bit further. Qaanitah, good afternoon, and thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Thank you very much for having me, Liesl.
Given the juncture South Africa finds itself in, talk to us about the need to write the book. Perhaps as we look at other liberation movements on the continent, the ability to govern, was the decline of sorts predictable?
Yeah, so it's a very big moment for South Africa, this 30 years of democracy, when you look at other liberation movements in the continent and their ability to withstand, another 30 years, if you like. And so the 2024 election is being fashioned as the 1994 in terms of political importance. And some may say that that is an exaggeration. But definitely, Liesl, we're going towards a phase of, political change. And what does that look like is, number one, the firm grip of one single political party on governance is declining, as you see in local government already and in the metros. And we will see coalition politics play out definitely on provincial level and perhaps on national level. Now, Liesl, when you ask what's the importance of writing a book, I think that things move so quickly in South Africa, and it's important to take a step back, to sit down and to unpack where have we come from and what does that mean in terms of where we're going to.
Qaanitah, thank you for that context, because in this 30-year democratic dispensation, there have been some hits and misses. And I wonder at this point, which would probably, we will not be able to quantify everything in just this few minutes. But given the hits and misses, what have the ANC gotten right? What has been some of the more impactful victories?
Yeah, I think in terms of the Constitution, I think the state institutions, the fact that we have independent state institutions, the fact that we have a thriving Constitution, the fact that we have a judiciary that is independent. These are things we cannot take for lightly. And again, understanding, this book has, and why we wrote it was not meant to trash the ANC in any way, but to look at what the ANC's own analysis of what they've been able to achieve and juxtapose it to reality and understand that pretty much, society, we as the media and the ANC all agree in terms of what they've been able to achieve and what they haven't been able to achieve. We score the ANC as, in the 1994 promises at 40% of what they've been able to achieve. They're still dealing with issues like around land, issues around transformation, poverty, inequality, are still massive problems in South Africa. And so the idea then is to say, okay, what happens now to this Liberation Party who has been in charge for 30 years, and this is what they've been able to achieve, and this is what they have not been able to achieve. What comes next?
Okay, Qaanitah, what about, the backdrop of the inherited privilege of white families who benefited under colonialism and apartheid? How has it impacted the work that they've had to do coming in?
There's absolutely no doubt that the legacy of apartheid has and will continue to have a grip on South African society, whether it's with regards to apartheid spatial planning, whether it's with regards to the economy, which is largely, still untransformed. And so the idea then to say that 30 years the ANC should have undone everything that apartheid did is unfair to the ANC. But the idea then is to track to say, what have you promised, in this democratic dispensation, and what have you done against your own promises? And that was the important thing. But also, Liesl, in unpacking this very important question of where do we come from as South Africa, where we are and where we're heading to, we sort of divided the book in terms of the history of the ANC, the more recent history of the Ramaphosa administration, administration, and then sketching out the political landscape of what's to come. And you'll understand that while this book sort of dives deep into the legacy of the ANC and what the last 30 years look like, and more recently what the last 5 to 6 years under President Cyril Ramaphosa meant for South Africa, we also look at the failures and the fragmentation in our book, Who Will Rule South Africa, of opposition parties, of how coalitions fell out in certain municipalities and metros, and understanding why, we delve into questions in terms of, what is the future of the EFF? Does the EFF hold any prospects? The Democratic Alliance, how come this party remains static despite the steep decline that the ANC faces? And so we face a very abnormal situation in South Africa, Liesl, where where a majority party is on steep decline, but you are not seeing a rapid increase for either the second largest political party or the third largest political party. And so the fragmentation of opposition is quite interesting and will also define what comes after the 2024 elections.
Qaanitah, speaking about knowing where we come from to understand where we're headed, and just given the way the book has been divided, the theoretical understanding of South Africa's current conditions since the Morogoro conference, do you think that the ANC has gotten a grip of what those current conditions look like, given the socio-economic dynamics in the country, amongst the youth, dealing with populism, even issues in relation to the continent at large?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely some disconnect in terms of where we are as a country today, and that is seen in terms of the responses to crises that face all over the country, and the sluggishness in dealing with the unemployment crisis, with dealing with the sharpening inequality gap, and so can we say the ANC fully appreciates where we are as a society today? I don't think so. I think one of the biggest criticism that the ANC faces is that it became inward looking instead of external and looking at the country for what it is.
Qaanitah, I have to wrap up just very quickly. I want to just look at probabilities and possibilities, scenarios unfolding, which is obviously also covered in the book for 2024 and beyond. What's been observed? We know Ipsos has released some figures, but also given the challenges and opportunities that come with that, what are some of the political dynamics that are set to unfold as a result?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is that there's a lot of anticipation that the ANC may just clinch onto its majority nationally, and may have its majority reduced in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. That's the one scenario. The second scenario is that the ANC loses its majority and has to side with smaller opposition parties to form a coalition government. Then there's the scenario where the ANC's decline is steep to the lower 40% or under 45%, and then we'll need a larger political party or many smaller political parties to side with to form a government after the election. So there's definitely an anticipation or a realization that one party majorities is probably on the decline, and that the ANC has to look at power sharing definitely on a provincial level and somewhat perhaps on a national level. But more importantly, I think that this election is an election for the youth. It's an election for turnout. It's for people to reclaim this democracy. For far too long, we've outsourced democracy to politicians to do what they want to with it, and failing to realize how expensive this democracy was. And so I think that the shift of where we are as a country as we mark 30 years of democracy next year is the realization that this is our democracy. This is not the democracy of politicians. This is not the democracy of political parties, and therefore we have to preserve it and protect it with everything we have.
Qaanitah Hunter, thank you for your time at this hour and for joining us with a conversation looking at South Africa's political landscape through our latest offering entitled Who Will Rule South Africa. Qaanitah Hunter joining us for that chat.